Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 1st, 2011 meeting of the Glendale City Council. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Friedman.
Here. Tonight's flag salute will be led by Councilmember Najarian.
Thank you. Please rise and face the flag of our country. Place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be delivered by Camille Levy, CEO of Glendale Healthy Kids, representing the Glendale Religious Leaders Association.
Good evening. There are 57 ways to say God or Supreme Being. So in whichever way is comfortable to you, please bow your heads and join with me. God, look down on our city and shower us with peace and prosperity. Guide not only those here, but all of our commissions and employees. Keep safe those who keep us safe and free to meet here every week. Give strength to those who act as a safety net for our citizens, community helping community. May our citizens use the gifts they have received and pass on the love given to them. Bring hope, love, and joy to all who enter our city, whether to live, work, or play. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Can we hear your report, please?
The agenda for the November 1st, 2011 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, October 27, 2011 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. I am going to take things a little bit out of order here and pass the gavel to Mr. Najarian, if he will so accept it, for some new business, the announcement I think everyone's been waiting for. I would like to move that pursuant to Article 9, thank you, Section 1 of the Glendale City Charter, Scott Ochoa is hereby appointed as the City Manager of the City of Glendale effective January 3rd, 2012. The City Attorney is hereby directed to submit the proposed City Manager employment agreement for Council consideration and approval on November 8th, 2011.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Oh, I think this is your call.
Unless you want your gavel back. I've got to see it to the end. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to nominate Mr. Ochoa as our new city manager. Is there any discussion? And I have no cards on the subject, remarkably.
Well, it wasn't agendized, that's why, probably.
Well, it was a closed session item. And I will open this up to comments from my colleagues after this vote is taken. Roll call, please.
Council members Manukian.
Yes.
Najarian.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes.
Round of applause. Will the new city manager stand up so people know who you are?
Well, I'm going to invite him. Actually, I'm going to
Okay.
invite him up in just a moment. First, I wanted to just make a few comments to introduce him to the community and to let my colleagues speak. First, let me say that I'm very proud of the City Council for their very serious and very rigorous deliberations. I am very happy that we made a decision that was unanimous and I believe enthusiastic on all parts. I am very pleased to announce that we've selected Scott Ochoa as our new city manager. Scott's credentials, his values, his experience, his multidimensional understanding of local government and municipal operations impressed us all. We were also very impressed by his involvement in his community with many charitable organizations, and we are also very enthusiastic about his enthusiasm and his fresh outlook. As Scott accepts his position, he leaves a legacy with the City of Monrovia, where he has been their city manager, been involved since 1993, when he first became an intern. Upon graduation with a Bachelor of Arts in Government from Claremont McKenna College, Scott became a full-time city employee. He demonstrated his abilities and desire to excel through the City of Monrovia as he continued his advanced education. He completed a master's degree at the USC School of Public Administration. He took on increased responsibilities after his master's and rose up quickly through the ranks. In 1999, he was appointed Assistant City Manager. Through his unceasing aspirations to improve himself and the community around him, he exhibited the characteristics needed to become the city manager of Monrovia in 2004. Scott's years as the city manager of Monrovia made obvious the outstanding work ethic as well as his investment in the community. While in Monrovia, he managed an aggressive economic development program, worked to balance quality of life issues with fiscal constraints and development pressure, and restructured the organization to meet the challenges of the rapidly changing business environment. His management philosophy is predicated on values-based management, exceptional customer service, and precision execution. His credentials, values, and multidimensional understanding of municipal issues and government make him the perfect candidate for taking Glendale to the next level of excellence. We are ecstatic to welcome such a reputable and dynamic individual as our new city manager. And I would just like to take a moment to read from his resume a few of his accomplishments that I thought were especially germane to Glendale. And what was interesting for me personally going through this process was in looking at what Scott has done in Monrovia, realizing that many times the size of a city does not tell the whole story of the challenges that a city faces. And in Monrovia, they have faced a lot of challenges, and Scott has led them through, I think, very, very well. In terms of finance, he had a lot of, I believe, very fresh and interesting ideas. In Monrovia, he integrated an ongoing strategic planning and performance measurement efforts into a 2-year budget adoption process, including leadership assessments, productivity index, and strategic and stretch goal achievement. In terms of quality of life, he utilized quinennial citizen satisfaction surveys as well as the web-based Thriving Neighborhood Survey to gauge public support, direction, and evaluation of city programs and services. With economic development and housing, he negotiated a $66.83 million Gold Line foothill extension, which, if any of you know Monrovia, will be extremely important to the future of that city. Something that I wish that we could have in Glendale. In terms of infrastructure maintenance, he completed capital replacement and rehabilitation projects, including the Monrovia Fire Station No. 1, Corporation Yard Facility and Library Park, Hardscape, and Playground. I've been to Monrovia several times over the last few years, and their new library and their new park is really quite an accomplishment and something very beautiful in their downtown. With employees, he initiated an employee mentoring program, as well as implementing a continuous improvement employee evaluation system. With public safety, and this was one of the most interesting things to me, I didn't realize this, but Monrovia has faced some very serious challenges in terms of gang violence. And that city really led the way in terms of gang injunctions, but also by creating a dialogue with the youth who were feeling disenfranchised in a neighborhood that was feeling disenfranchised and making them part of the process. And by doing both the enforcement as well as the more proactive approach of reaching out to this neighborhood and to the youth in the neighborhood in particular, they were able to really turn that problem around. And that's something that's very impressive. So I'm sure we'll be learning a lot more about Scott as time goes by, and I will give him a chance to speak, but I would like to ask my colleagues to weigh in. Mr. Manukian.
Madam Mayor, thank you. And I would like to also join Mayor Friedman in welcoming you to the city. And through our discussions with you, what was outstanding for me was your level of involvement and proactivity with the employees and the community, and that's commendable. And as the mayor said, there's many accomplishments. I would like to congratulate you, congratulate your family as well, and welcome you to the Glendale family. So, welcome aboard.
Senator
I also would like to welcome you, Scott, our new city manager, starting in a few weeks. And it was certainly a great experience interviewing you. However, it was a very tough decision. We had some excellent candidates before us, and that's what made it quite a achievement, I think, for all of us on the City Council to sit down with an open mind and review in detail and really analyze every candidate's strengths and weaknesses. I'd like to thank the members of the public who weren't shy in giving us their opinion as to who should or should not be the city manager. I think we are now turning the page. The starboard era, and we're leaving the starboard era, as sad as that seems, as almost as inconceivable as those words seemed maybe as short as a few months ago. Every city must move forward, must grow, must evolve and develop, and I'm very confident that Scott Ochoa will be able to lead us in our new challenges.
Mr. Quintero.
I also want to congratulate Scott and the entire family that's here, his wife, his two good-looking kids, and his parents. I just want to briefly talk a little bit about the process, since, as Mr. Najarian mentioned, we had plenty of input from the public, not all of it positive, in my opinion. We selected a placement person, and he is a professional who, just to give you an idea of this gentleman's credentials, he's placed approximately 500 professional executive level types of candidates, over 3,000 in the senior level recruitment. He's placed city managers in Phoenix, Arizona, Bakersfield, Riverside, Glendale, San Jose, Santa Ana, Miami, Florida, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Charlotte, Las Vegas, on and on, Dallas, Texas, you name it. So this is someone who's worked in this field. He's literally the dean. He even placed Peter Uberoth at the Olympics years ago. This is a professional person that we hired to do the job. Approximately 30 candidates, 12 were city managers here in Southern California, and perhaps even the rest of the state. And half of the applicants were not city managers. They were department heads, assistant city managers, etc. But in fact, we whittled it down to 5. We were given this interview report on the different candidates, where they wrote or answered different questions and so forth. Then we basically asked all of the candidates the same questions, and then followed up with different questions depending on what they said. So I guess I'm saying all of this so that then I personally took all of these notes. These are Mr. Ochoa's notes and then the other candidates. So what I'm saying is that it was a fair process without question. Everyone got to compete who was at this level of executive talent, and out of all of those people, this gentleman was the winner. So I think it says something about his background, his achievements, and obviously something about what we think he's going to do to take this city forward to the next step. So I'm looking forward to working with him. I'm looking forward to having his 2 kids hanging here with the Glendale teenager, and his parents coming to spend money here in Glendale. But it's a great day for the city, and I'm very, very happy today.
Thank you. Mr. Weaver?
Well, I guess I'm the only person sitting around that voted to bring Jim Starbird here. I hate to see Jim go. He's been a very good friend. Regardless of what some of the stakeholders have said, Jim has done a magnificent job for Glendale and the state of California through the redevelopment agency and the other task jobs that he has held. Will be missed. And now I have voted for his replacement. Kind of unique to now spend a few years with him. The only thing I'd say about his background that stuck with me, when I read, after we thought we had the man, we did background checks. And we talked to a number of executives, officials in Monrovia area. One statement stuck out to me. It said, if someday he was sick and tired of Glendale and he wanted to come back to Monrovia, would you take him? And the response was, in a heartbeat. That tells me a lot. He's extremely well liked in his community, and I know what they must be going through now, knowing they have to go find a replacement for him. It won't be easy. As my colleagues have said, it's just too bad that so many people in the community wanted to tell us what to do, thinking the fix was in, all this different talk. We didn't believe that the five of us could sit down and do what we thought was the best for this city. We think we've done it, and Mr. Ochoa, don't expect miracles. It's going to take, he's moving from a small city, smaller than us, to Glendale. It's going to take him time. It might take him a year to get his hands around this. He'll have 18 executives reporting to him here. In Monrovia, I think it was 7. So it's a total different ballgame, but we confidently feel he's up to doing it. So I'm happy to have him here, and we'll get you kids into school here, too. We've got a good school system. So congratulations, Scott. It'll be fun working with you.
Thank you. Mr. Starbird.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. I find myself in a unique position that I've never been in before, frankly. I have left other cities, but I've never had my successor actually be appointed before I have physically left. In this case, I feel a sense of envy. I've chosen willingly to retire, and yet I envy Scott Ochoa in many ways. He's inheriting a tremendously effective policy group in the City Council. You all are guided by your heart and what you feel is in the best interest of the community. And that is the first and foremost requirement for a quality community, which Glendale is. Secondly, he's inheriting an organization that is second to none. This is a group of people that, frankly, before I came here, was dedicated to Glendale. After coming here, all I had to do was to continue to support the values that they already had instilled in them, to be committed to the community and work hard and do their very best. And this community does that in every department, day in and day out. The management team I put second to none. The executive team is the best I've worked with in my 40 years in local government. And I've encouraged Scott to look to them for their guidance and support. With your support, with their support, I have no doubt in my mind that Scott will be a tremendously successful city manager and continue to accomplish things that will lead Glendale forward and continue to be the premier city that it is. So I welcome him. If there's anything I can do to support him as he makes a transition, he will have Yasmin Beers as assistant, who I know is ready and able to provide him all the support she can. Michelle Pashai, my secretary, who is ready to provide him with all the support that he needs. And this organization of 1,900 people who serve the 200,000 people of Glendale, I know with his leadership will continue to do well. So I'm here another month. I'm not gone yet. December 2nd is my last day. And woe be it to anybody who says I have left already or don't care, because I really do. But I look forward to this transition, both for myself but also for Glendale, and I'm happy to see someone of Scott's caliber be able to step into this position. Scott, congratulations.
So, Scott, why don't you come up and introduce yourself to the community?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. May it please the City Council. I am both excited and very humbled to be here before you, and I am truly grateful for the honor that you have bestowed upon me. Glendale is a wonderful and dynamic community and very diverse, and this organization matches that. I look forward to a very long and effective tenure as your new city manager. That said, I must acknowledge the contributions and career of your retiring city manager, Mr. Jim Starbird. Jim is a consummate professional, and he is admired and much respected by his peers up and down the state of California. Truly, I can become your new city manager, but I cannot replace Jim Starbird, and nor would I try. Instead, I will focus on the organization you and he have created and endeavor to find new opportunities to pioneer new ground and to create new value. Given the professionalism, expertise, and creativity of your employees and the management team, I have great confidence that through your vision, we will continue to keep Glendale as a premier city, as Jim has outlined and highlighted, and to be a leader among cities. And we'll need every ounce of that innovative and entrepreneurial spirit, because the challenges and threats that we face are very real and very pressing. A sluggish economy, a hostile and dysfunctional state, and serious questions about the means and costs of the delivery of local government services all dictate that we keep our head on a swivel and that we work at multiple levels to address the problems that we face. We will focus on growing new revenues through judicious economic development and sustainable, well-managed growth, and at the same time we will focus on controlling costs. We will continue to operate and offer the highest level of community services to maintain a very high and enviable quality of life for our residents here in Glendale, and at the same time challenge the creativity and the resourcefulness of our staff. All that said, I want to make it very clear that I am very happy to be here back part of the Glendale community. My wife and I fell in love at the Galleria. Our first apartment was over on Sinclair, just up the street from the high school. And even when we lived in Mount Washington for a number of years, Glendale is where we shopped and ate and played. This is a wonderful community whose strength lies in its diversity. Truly, there is a world in Glendale, and Glendale has established its place in this world. I am obliged to introduce you to some very key people in my life, my family. With me tonight are my mom and my dad, Ray and Delia Ochoa, who are proof to me that hard work and character and family are the most telling determining factors in building a positive and productive life. Also with me are my pride and joy, my son and daughter Nicolas and Tesia, and finally the one person who I need to make sense out of everything in this life, my beautiful wife Sophia. Madam Mayor and City Council, I thank you. And I look forward to serving with you and for you to take this amazing place and even make it more special. Thank you so very much for this honor and this opportunity.
Thank you. And before you leave, I know that you're going to a council meeting in Monrovia.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
we have a little ritual that we do here, and you're obliged to now wear this for the rest of your life.
This isn't the tattoo that Jim told me about.
It's actually, no, it's even better. City pin.
Outstanding. I will close simply by saying that I have a council meeting in my soon-to-be former city. As Jim well knows, because he managed there many years ago, it's a very special place, and I would not ever consider leaving there or the people that I work with were it not for the amazing opportunity to be here in Glendale. The people, the management team, and certainly you as the policymakers, I look forward to that opportunity. And I hope to validate your confidence in my abilities and make you proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Mr. City Clerk, next item.
Next item on the agenda under presentation and appointments at 3A is the agenda preview for the meetings of November 8th, 2011.
Okay, Ms. Beers.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, for November 8th, 2011, we have no business agenda items for the Glendale Housing Authority or the Glendale Redevelopment Agency. We do have a meeting of the City Council and the Glendale Redevelopment Agency at 2:30. This is a joint meeting. It's a public hearing, Director of Community Development. This is a proposed mixed-use development, Legendary Tower, Glendale, to be located at 300 North Central Avenue. That evening for the City Council meeting at 6 p.m. for November 8th, we have a light agenda at this time. Under action items, we have Director of Community Services and Parks. This is regarding the Glendale Rose Float, and this is a status update, as well as two items under hearing, Director of Community Development. This is the Glendale Register of Historic Resources listing and Mills Act contract for property located at 1374 Greenmont Drive. And the second item is the same, but it's a property located at 2440 St. Andrews Drive. And that concludes my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Manukian?
Madam Mayor, before we go on, I would like to request that we take 3D before 3C.
Okay, can you please read 3D?
No, we're on 3B right now.
Oh, okay. We will reverse the order of C and D. Can
Certainly.
you get 3B into the record?
3B is presentation from Airport Authority, Dan Fager, Executive Director of the Bob Hope Airport Authority.
Okay, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and members of the Glendale City Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here today. I'm Dan Fager, the Executive Director at the Bob Hope Airport, and I'd like to, if I could get the slides up, I'd like to give you a very brief presentation of what I think are exciting times at the Bob Hope Airport. We are moving forward with positive change. I want to talk a little bit about the collaborative process that we hope will result in a consensus-driven plan that will shape the future of this airport for decades to come. Oh, I can't see it. Okay. Okay, I'll work off my slides here. If we could go to the next slide. In front of you is an aerial shot of the airport. The airport is made up of 2 runways, and they divide the airport into 4 quadrants. There is the quadrant in the upper right-hand corner, which we'll call the northeast quadrant, and the quadrant in the southeast quadrant is the quadrant where the existing airport terminal is located and where the existing Bob Hope Airport train station is located. The airport has a very rich resource of transportation opportunities in front of it, and there's also opportunities for substantial development at the airport. Thank you. The upper right-hand corner, the northeast quadrant. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see that. Right there is a substantial development opportunity. There's about 108 acres of land right there, located on the main north-south arterial road that goes through downtown Burbank, connects I-5 and the 134 freeway. Runs through the media capital of the world. It's adjacent to a medium hub airport that serves 4.3 million passengers, and it's bounded by railroad tracks to the north that serve the Antelope Valley Metrolink service, going from Lancaster to Union Station. And on the south here, this is the Lausanne corridor that serves Amtrak and Metrolink service out to Ventura, then to Union Station. In this pool of transportation resources, and in this 108-acre piece of property, lies substantial opportunity for this airport and for the region to help further enhance the economic engine that this airport represents. The airport has an economic output of about almost $4 billion a year. It's a very important asset to the community, and we hope through the collaborative process that we can make it even more valuable. There are 3 initiatives I want to talk about this evening. The first is the extension of the development agreement. The development agreement was the peace treaty that the City of Burbank and the Airport Authority entered into in 2005, and it was intended to provide a cooling off period between the 2 agencies while they figure out what the future of the airport should be. Just recently, the City of Burbank and the Airport Authority approved a 3-year extension of the development agreement to allow the agencies time to help shape the future of the airport in a way that would be done with input from the community. I will also be talking a little bit about the traffic and transportation study that we're doing and transportation improvements we hope to make over the course of the next decade. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the authority's commitment to reduce noise in the community. When the development agreement was extended, it allowed for public discussion of a replacement terminal building. This is something that we have not talked about in a number of years. We believe that the time is ripe now for us to come to the community and seek community input on the desirability of replacing our 81-year-old terminal building with a terminal building that perhaps fulfills the immediate needs to improve safety and seismic concerns, but at the same time is respectful of the community's concerns about expanding the airport and not creating additional negative impacts on the community. The process that we hope to use is one that is based on collaboration between the City of Burbank and the Airport Authority through what is called the Airport Land Use Working Group, which is a group comprised of staff members from both bodies. And these staff members working together have been tasked to jointly identify issues and recommend courses of action to the respective bodies. The goals of the Airport Land Use Working Group are to identify potential methods to deal with nighttime noise protection, addressing FAA safety concerns about the existing terminal, improving ground access and traffic mitigation, and looking at the optimum and appropriate utilization of that northeast quadrant, those 100 acres of land we call the B6 property. We hope to provide objective background information to all interested parties to assist in achieving a decision-making consensus. This process is not intended to shove some kind of a plan down the throat of the community. Instead, it's intended to work with the community, seek input from the community and other interested parties, including the airlines, the three cities, the City of Los Angeles, the County of Los Angeles, and hope to shape a consensus-driven plan that will meet the needs of all of those interested parties while still respecting the quality of life for the City of Burbank and the people who live in Los Angeles that are immediately impacted every day by how the airport operates. The Airport Authority's, the Airport Land Use Working Group is currently in the final process of selecting a firm to do a community opinion survey, and we hope to take action with the authority at the next, within the next couple of weeks and launch that community opinion survey and get a baseline of where the community is today in terms of its thoughts about development, traffic, the new terminal, the airport as an economic engine, and the need to improve transportation. Once the community opinion survey is completed, a much larger outreach program will be implemented that will have two-way dialogue between the community and other interested parties and the bodies, including this body, because you are a very important player in shaping the future of the airport. Some of the issues that need to be discussed are the governance of the airport, and the governance of the airport is something that you hold the key to. Finally, once if in fact there is desire on the part of the community to move forward with a development plan at the airport, and we can shape something together, we hope to bring something to the voters of the City of Burbank by 2015. That would then hopefully allow us to move forward with a development plan for the airport. The Airport Authority, working in concert with Metro and Metrolink and the cities, is moving forward with a ground access study. The purpose of the ground access study is to determine needs, opportunities, and options for transportation alternatives for the airport and the adjacent communities. There are three major areas that the Airport Authority wants to pursue. This is the development of a Santa Clarita to Union Station corridor with a Metrolink station at the Bob Hope Airport. Secondly, we want to reduce north-south vehicle traffic on Hollywood by providing alternatives to that, including expanded bus service and other mechanisms, including additional Metrolink service. Finally, we want to explore east-west connectivity with Burbank, Glendale, and Pasadena, most likely through a bus rapid transit way on the 134. The Airport Authority is moving forward with a regional intermodal transportation center. I've been before this body before. I told you that we were redesigning it to make it more cost-effective. We hope to put it out to bid on November 29th, open bids on January 10th. We're confident that we've designed a project that we can afford, and that we hope to move this very important project forward that will hopefully encourage our passengers to use Metrolink service as an alternative to their own private vehicle. Finally, the Airport Authority is going to embark on what's called a Part 150 study update. This is a comprehensive scientific study required by the FAA periodically to assure them that the money that they give us to acoustically treat homes is being well spent. The Airport Authority remains committed to reducing impacts on the community. It remains committed to the acoustical treatment program and wants to do everything that it can to maximize improvements in the community that help people who live near the community tolerate the noise that they're subjected to every day. With that, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? Mr. Quintero.
I want to make some comments. I want to thank Mr. Fager and one of his executive staff, Mark Hardiman, who happens to be a La Crescenta resident. I want to thank them for all the work they're doing. They're really doing a positive job, in my opinion, reaching out to the residents of Burbank, to the Burbank City Council, of course, to the airlines, to the other two partners that own the airport, City of Glendale and Pasadena. I think we are on the right path towards, one, making this airport more than just an airport, but in fact making it a true transportation center that hopelessly will be a seamless way to get around by train, buses, and of course airlines. But anyway, we've come a long way. I'm really happy with the presentation. Thank you for coming this evening, Mr. Fager. Good job.
Well, Mr. Fager, I want to thank my three colleagues who sit on the Airport Authority. It's currently President. Are you President or Chair, Mr. Quintero?
No, I rotated off.
Oh,
I thought I was going to be president for life. It didn't work out for me.
Former Chair and Councilman Manookian and Weaver, who devote many hours towards supporting and formulating the great policy vision that you and your staff have developed, and hopefully that will continue to become an even greater asset for our community as your plans become reality.
Thank you.
Mr. Manookian?
I also want to thank Mr. Fager and Dan for coming out and making a presentation. I was first familiar with the airport back in 1999 when I was running first for council, and things have changed since then. And Mr. Starwood probably remembers that the commissioners were not even allowed to come and have discussion with council members, and there was a very adversarial relationship between cities, airport authority, between the individual cities, and all of that. I think all of that has changed. And with your tenure on as the executive of the airport authority, I think things have changed even more with your proactive approach to the community and respecting the cities, the communities, as well as the staff and the commissioners, I think. So that respect is mutual. Thank you for everything you've done, and we continue to look forward to working with you, your staff, and the other cities and the communities to make the airport, as Mr. Quintero, I almost forgot your name.
It's been a long day.
A transportation center for the region, not necessarily for airplanes, but for the trains and all the other transportation. I think the Ritzy project is a great project that you've pushed through. I was skeptical initially, but I've certainly signed on at this point. So it's a great project, including the future vision that you have for the airport. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Manookian. I must say that the reason that we have gotten as far as we have gotten is because we now have a commission made up of 9 commissioners who all work in concert together. They have the same goals, objective, and vision in front of them. It's working as a cohesive team. And with that kind of leadership, it makes this easy. You remember the old days where we did not have that. It was constant adversarial relationships within the commission itself. But that's behind us. We have a good, solid working commission. And I think we can achieve, as you can see, there's lots of opportunity here to achieve great things for the region through this process. So I want to thank all of you, and especially those members that are also appointees to the commission.
Well, if I may add, Dan, for the public to know, closed session can run for 2 hours sometimes, as Dan runs through everything over and over again to make sure we understand and get our input on the directions we've been going, which have been extremely helpful because we're not pilots, we're not airport people, so there's a lot of learning that we have to do. The way you organize has been great. We had we definitely had the adversary relationships a decade ago. It's greatly changed. Now, are we the last one? Have you already talked now to Burbank and Pasadena councils?
Yes, you're the last on the rotation.
I may say you've done a pretty good job for being a civil engineer.
Just for
I didn't want to bring that up.
Play the pilot once.
What'd you say?
Okay,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I know pilots. Does that count?
You were in the Air Force.
I was in the Air Force. There we go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, per Mr. Manukian's request, we're going to take 3D before 3C. Could you please read the item?
3D is appointment of Shahe Krogalian to the Civil Service Commission. This was Councilmember Manukian's nomination.
I do have a card. Would you like to say something?
Yes, I would like to nominate him, actually. I think Mr. Krogalian has come a long way over the past 10 years or so. I think he has the experience with the civil service system. He's a former employee of the city of Glendale, and he's volunteered many hours and has helped many, many people in the community. So it is my pleasure to request his appointment to the Civil Service Commission.
Thank you. I do have one card. Let me go to the public. Alex Oganessian.
Mayor Friedman, members of the council, public, good evening to everybody. Thank you very much for your time tonight. My name is Alex Oganessian, and I'm here tonight as a private citizen to thank Mr. Manukian personally for the nomination of Shahe Krogalian to the Civil Services Commission. I have known Shahe for over 5 years now. He's someone you would call upon when you're faced with different types of challenges in life, different types of difficulties and challenges. He's always had the solutions for me. I've always called upon him for people. What I do in the community is I run about 4 businesses in the city of Glendale, so I know a lot of people that have a lot of problems. I've always called upon Shahe to help me out with the community that needed assistance with the public, with their problems, whether that problem's been youths that have gone onto the wrong path. He's helped out with people that have needed help with rent, talking to their landlords, solving problems with their landlords. I've always counted on him to help the public or the people that I know personally. Shai has always encouraged me personally to improve my life, become a better, productive member of the society, work harder to achieve my goals, believe in myself, and never give up on no matter how hard the challenges in life may be. And through his selfless willingness to help others, especially myself, he's taught me a lot of good values in life. Now, I've known Shahe for a little bit over 5 years now. I helped him raise over $125,000 for the victims of Hurricane Katrina. I myself raised over $500,000 for victims of 9/11. I was a member of the United States Armed Forces for 8 years with the Special Forces. I did 2 tours in Iraq, 1 tour in Bosnia, and 1 tour in Afghanistan. And after being wounded 3 times in Afghanistan, I was actually forced out of the military by the military. They said, "You've had enough action." Now, I can't talk about Shahe's life prior to 5 years from now, but I can definitely vouch for the last 5 years. What I do now myself is I try to raise as much money as I can throughout businesses in Glendale that are willing to help the public, help the children who want to learn that don't have cars, help the children that do want to learn that can't afford computers. I hold meetings with the public. They don't pay anything. I donate all of my time and all of the money myself. What I do is I give away cars, I give away computers, laptops, and anything I can get that'll help students achieve their goals. Now, for the last 2 years, Shah has been behind me on this, helping me, give a lot of time. We have videotapes of this, over 1,000 people attending. Last one we actually had on Sunday on Brand Boulevard, Brandon, Los Feliz. About 700 people showed up, and about 20 families received gifts to help the families move forward in this time of crisis. The only thing I can vouch for is I know he's a very good man. I know he's got a good heart, and he's sincere, and he's out there trying to help the neighborhood.
Your time is up. I'm sorry the timer didn't ring and it didn't go to
did not
orange,
ring.
but-
We apologize.
It didn't come up, but if anybody has any questions, I'd love to take some questions. But I can vouch for the last 5 years, and I actually have everything taped, what we've done for this community. I'm also a member of the City BG Commissioner, appointed by Mr. Manukian. Thank you for that as well.
Sorry, your time is up.
Thank you very
But
much.
thank you very much.
Not a problem.
And I have a late-breaking card. Mike Mohill.
Thank you, Mayor Friedman. My name is Mike Mohill. I didn't know we could speak on the different commissioners' appointments. I've known Mr. Shahe for the last, about 3-4 years. I initially met him while he was running for the 43rd Assembly District, and then recently for City Council. And he seemed to be a person who cared about the community. I can't say as much as the previous person who spoke before me because he's known him even better than I have. But Shahe has always been involved with everything in the community, helping people, always, always. And I find that's a sign of integrity and character. And I wish if his involvement says anything, wish I could admire him. I should say I do admire him for that. And with that, I'd like to recommend him for the commission also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's my last card. If no one else has any comments, we'll ask for a vote.
Wait, there was no second.
Doesn't need a second.
Don't need a second? Okay, well, I'd like to make a few comments because I will not be voting for Mr. Carolian. I've known him 15 to 20 years. He's a good man in many ways, but I do not think he's a fit for the Civil Service Commission. He's been convicted of 2 misdemeanors in time, brandishing a gun on his wife, running an illegal immigration service. He's paid the penalty for those. In the past, years back, he used to talk about the police department as being overpopulated. They had to reduce the police force, and he was fired by the city of Glendale from the police force. Also, during the last election, when I was campaigning against him, he saw fit to call me make an uncalled for personal charge against me in a public forum attended by over 100 people. Mr. Carolian called me last night at home to say he didn't really mean it, and he hoped that we could shake hands when he walked by. But that charge that he made against me is unforgivable. And based on the evidence that I know of him, I wish him every success, but not on the Civil Service Commission. Thank you.
Well, we're speaking our minds. I wasn't present at that debate, so I'm not exactly sure what the charges were against Mr. Weaver. I know Mr. Shahe's, Mr. Carolian's past. I have perhaps been one of his sharpest critics along the campaign trail and in public. And when I made those criticisms, it was solely based on his bad acts, his instances of poor judgment in the past. Since those transgressions, which I think were at least 10, 12, maybe 13 years ago, I have seen him to be someone involved in the community, tirelessly, and we all know every election time Shahe is a candidate, and he tirelessly campaigns on positive issues, on bringing resolve to the issues to his constituency and to the city at large. I personally, at this point, am willing to give him a second chance to put his past behind. He does bring a knowledge of the city police department, an inner working, I think, of the civil service process. And I think that is a value that a commissioner can bring to the commission. As far as I know, Mr. Garcia, there is no legal basis which would preclude Mr. Krogan from holding that position as a commissioner?
That's correct. As long as he's a qualified elector, and he's legally qualified to serve on the commission.
I understand that there is no vociferous objection by any of the city employment groups, and for that reason, I am willing to give this gentleman a second chance, just as I would wish any city council to give any other person a second chance upon a showing of a turning of a new leaf. And I think he's shown that to me at this point.
Mr. Quintero?
Well, I think I've known Shahe the longest. I've certainly known him over 20 years. And while I do agree that the past is the past, he served his time. In fact, he lost his job here at the city of Glendale. He's been very active in the community for many years, working with youth and lots of other things, in addition to his political involvement. I think I would vote for him on any commission but the Civil Service Commission. I don't think he's my choice for civil service, parks and recreation, transportation and parking, numerous commissions. I think he would work out fine, but not for this particular commission.
Okay. With that, can we have a roll call?
Council members Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes?
Quintero,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Mayor Friedman.
No. Mr. Manukian?
It's unfortunate, but I want to thank the council for, I'm sure they voted their conscience and not political back and forth, let's say. Got you here and got you there, so I hope that wasn't the case. However, since this Shai was not appointed, I would like to nominate another individual. Although I respect Shai and the work that he's done in the community, I think, as Mr. Najarian said, everyone deserves a second chance. I'm here on the council because this community gave me a second chance last election, and I think I'm thankful for that, and I think I'm willing to give others a second chance. However, at this point, I would like to nominate Mr. Garo Rosarian to the Civil Service Commission.
Okay. Place in nomination. Can we hear the next item, please?
3C is the reappointment of Art Devine to the Civil Service Commission. This was your appointment, Mayor Friedman.
Thank you. I'm pleased to nominate Mr. Art Devine to another term on civil service. He's served the city very well, both on the Civil Service Commission and on the Planning Commission. He's active in many of our community organizations, a very visible member of the community, and someone who I have known for years and always known him to be very fair and very analytical in all of his dealings. There are any comments? Mr. Najarian.
I think Art Devine is a fine choice. He's very committed to the city, and he's shown great aptitude to the intricacies of the Civil Service Commission during his first term, and I applaud your renomination.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Mr. Manukian?
Yes, I will not be spiteful and not vote for Mr. Art Devine. I will vote for him. I think although there were some issues during the last hearing, during the Edith Fuentes hearings, I was there for a while, and there were some issues raised regarding conflict of interest with the majority of the commissioners, actually, and I don't know how far that went. But I do appreciate the work and the commitment of Mr. Devine to this community, so I will be voting for him.
If there's no more comments, can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item is City Council and staff comments.
Are there any comments?
No.
Mr. Manukian?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to mention that this Thursday morning I will be hosting the Vanguardian Forum. Mr. Barry Allen is out of town, and he requested that if I was available to host the meeting, and I will be hosting it. I am available. I will make time. I'm not available, but I will make time to host the meeting. And I've requested that a representative from the police department be present and talk about staffing levels at the police department, talk about hiring processes, how we can have more youth apply to the police department. Also, how can the community help the police department in keeping the city safe through community policing and neighborhood watch programs. So if there is anyone interested in joining us, please do so. I will be there 8 to 9 at Foxy's on Thursday, this Thursday. Thank you very much.
Are you buying, Mr. Manukian, in light of your guest?
I am only buying for myself. I will buy for the guest if he so requests.
Other comments? I just have a quick comment, which is that last week it was my pleasure to travel to Washington, D.C. on behalf of the city, but on a trip that was paid for by the Metropolitan Water District to the mayor's, the conference, U.S. Conference of Mayors Water Summit. It was a very interesting meeting, and the gist of the meeting was many things to do with water. There was a presentation on smart meters, which was very interesting. I didn't realize how many cities had smart meters. Boston, New York City, I mean, pretty much every major city in the country at this point. And it was interesting. I brought up some of the concerns that some of our residents have raised, and the mayors turned to me and said, what state are you from? And I said, California. And they all sort of together went, oh, yeah, California. I don't exactly know what that meant. But a lot of the meeting had to do with regulations from the EPA, and an EPA that, more than its predecessors in this administration, is an extremely aggressive EPA in terms of environmental standards. And what that's led to is cities rather, having to fulfill a lot of environmental regulations very quickly that will become extremely expensive for the cities. When it comes to water regulations alone, the estimate that they gave of the cost of the cities of the country was something around $190 billion for all the cities in the country that they'll have to pay. And while every city there, without exception, appreciates those regulations and really wants to comply with the environmental regulations, they also have a real desire to have EPA be flexible about the way that they comply in terms of using new technology, also to be flexible in terms of timetable, because for many cities they just can't do this that quickly and they're being fined by the EPA, and also to help financially, because for some cities especially, and for us included, because we have to deal with the same regulations, but for large cities with a more aging infrastructure, some of the older cities on the East Coast, the cost is up into the almost billions of dollars for some of these larger cities. And we were able to sit down with all of the high-level people at the EPA to actually have a face-to-face discussion about this. And the result was a memo from the EPA leadership to all of the regional EPA directors, asking them to work in hand-to-hand with the cities to be more flexible, to take into account individual cities' needs and their economic priorities, and to help them prioritize. And it was a very positive meeting, a very positive step, I believe, in terms of cooperation between cities who have a real desire to comply with regulations and increasing regulations and the EPA. And if there's a lot of things that go into our water and electric rates, but I can tell you that on the water side, these regulations and increasing regulations have a lot to do with increasing water rates, because the more regulations that you have, the more money it costs to comply. So it was just a very interesting conference. I was very happy to be there. It was, I wouldn't say it was fun. You kind of get locked into the basement of a hotel for, a couple days. But it was certainly educational and I think very valuable when it came to the dialogue with EPA. So I just wanted to brief the community on where I was over the last few days. Thank you. Are there any staff comments? Seeing none. Next item, please.
Next item under 5 consent items are including minutes following a routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of the council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motions are proposed.
Mr. Manukian?
Item 5B I would like to pull.
I'm sorry, which?
5B as in boy.
Thank you.
I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second?
Okay, roll call, please.
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman?
Yes. Can we hear 5B, please?
5B is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding Glendale Water Power water distribution systems. At B1 is resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing a 5-year contract with Siemens Industry, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $200,000.
Mr. Steiger, let me ask Mr. Mnuchin if he has any.
I don't need a report. I understand what the issue is in terms of Siemens and the parts and the distribution, that they are the only provider of the parts that we need for the distribution system that we have. Is that why we're dispensing competitive bidding?
Yeah, that's correct.
From a very reliable source, I've received information that they are not the only company that has those additional parts that are required for the distribution system. Is that true?
That is not true. Much of the system we have is Siemens, and so for the most part, it may be true that a couple of pieces of the distribution system are not, but most of it is in terms of the chlorinization piece, which is what this serves. Most of it is Siemens, so it needs that vendor. There are parts of it that aren't, but in order to separate it out, it really wouldn't make sense. It would cost more in the long run to do that.
And there's no other vendor that provides that same system other than Siemens?
Well, we already have the Siemens system in place, so this is just maintenance of their system, basically.
And why do we have to have a 5-year contract? Why not on an annual basis? Because basically the fees are increasing with this contract.
That's
They were
correct.
$15,000, now they're going up to approximately $30,000, $40,000.
$40,000, and the reason for that is because the $15,000 was not enough. That was a prior contract, which again was established years ago, and we had been increasing and exceeding that limit year after year. So in this case, we renegotiated a price that would fix that for the next 5 years, which actually is a better price. So
Better pricing than the pricing we've been receiving so far?
overall, yeah.
Overall?
Yeah.
Do we have a specific line item for this item in the budget?
In the budget, yes, we do. Mhm.
And if I go in the budget, last year's budget, and the comparison, we will see an overage in there?
You will.
Okay. Thank you.
We
Second.
have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Council members Mnuchin,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Darrow,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. Next item.
Next item is oral communications. This will be the 3-minute portion reserved for community announcements. The full 5-minute portion will be at the end of the conclusion of city business.
Thank you. I have one card. Leon Mayer.
Good evening, Mayor Freeman, members of the council and staff. My name is Leon Mayer, and I'm appearing tonight not just on behalf of the Friends of the Library, but on behalf of the library itself and the READ program put on by the library from time to time, and especially for this next month, which is One Book, One Glendale. And we're going to kick off One Book, One Glendale tomorrow night with a movie called Away from Her. And this is a book about Alzheimer's disease, and the theme of One Book, One Glendale this year is Alzheimer's disease, its detection and treatment and diagnosis. And this will be a challenging month for anybody who has family, friends who are involved with the early stages of Alzheimer's, the treatment of Alzheimer's. And this movie, Away from Her, will be tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. It's a fictional movie, but it's based on a short story by Alice Munro. And then our next program is November 7th, which is this coming Monday. And on November 7th, Nancy Tourney from the Alzheimer's Association will appear at the library at 7 o'clock and give a lecture concerning all aspects of Alzheimer's, the early detection, the treatment, and all the problems involved with Alzheimer's, risk factors, stages of Alzheimer's. This is truly a community need for various people, various families to familiarize yourself with all aspects of Alzheimer's. Now, I also want to remind everybody that the Friends of the Library, we have two special projects, the Children's Room and the Book Nook. And we're able to carry on the things we do as Friends of the Library by the support of people who join the Friends of the Library. And I just noticed when I got my water bill and power bill from the GWP that there's a little slip of paper in that bill, and it tells you how easy it is to join the Friends. It'll cost you $10 if you're a student or a senior, $20 for just an individual, and $40 for a member. So we urge your support for the Friends of the Library, and we urge your involvement with the One Book, One Glendale. You go to any branch, you come to the Central Library, and you find out all about the rest of the programs we have tonight. And I have material as I leave here. Raise your hand if anybody wants to get some of the flyers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Ready?
And Council, I actually would like to make two announcements for two very special events that are going to take place this week. The first one is actually this coming Thursday for the Glendale YMCA. They are having a fundraiser concert at the Stars Theater on Brand at 7:30, featuring comedian Lori Tatulian and the band the Element Band, who had a sold-out show at the Burbank Starlight Bowl last year. Very successful concert, and they play international music. So if anyone is interested, I'm sure they can contact the Glendale YMCA for details. And also on Sunday, November 6, 2011, at the Glendale Center Theater, it is the traditional, now annual and hailed, everyone looks forward to it, Fritz Coleman Comedy Night. The proceeds are going to benefit the Glendale Red Cross. Tickets are still available. There's one show at 7:30 p.m., and better than I going on, I will let Fritz make the announcement himself. So we have PSA downstairs.
Hello, I'm Fritz Coleman, inviting you to my comedy benefit for the Glendale Crescenta Valley chapter of the American Red Cross. It's at the Glendale Center Theater, 5:30 and 7:30 on Sunday, November 6th. Two shows, best comedians, television in Las Vegas. Only one way to get tickets. Call 818-243-3121. Just call. It's the only way you can buy them. 818-243-3121. The wonderful comedians we have every year from Las Vegas and television. I'll see you there. It's the 20th year. Man, I am old.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Najarian.
Thank you for reminding me, Madam Mayor. I would like to announce that this Saturday at 9 a.m. at Pacific Edison Community Center, we are going to be having perhaps it's the third annual Glendale Health Festival. And there will be representatives from many different healthcare organizations and healthcare providers. You'll be able to receive free screenings, blood pressure checks, I think diabetes checks, as well as other consultations with different healthcare providers, and information on how you can remain healthy and continue living a healthy lifestyle, and give you the best opportunities for health care facilities throughout the Glendale region. It's free. There's some great giveaways and great take-home items starting at 9 at the Pacific Edison Park, next to our famous swimming pool.
Thank you. By the way, your swimming pool was a big hit on the mayor's bike ride, just so you know.
Did you guys?
We didn't jump in, but we did make a stop there. Okay, next item.
Next item under adoption of ordinances at 7A is ordinance authorizing execution of a development agreement by and between the City of Glendale and Colorado and Orange LLC in connection with the Americana at Brand expansion project. This was offered on October 25th by Councilmember Weaver.
Move 7A.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmembers Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. Next item.
7B is ordinance authorizing execution of a development agreement by and between the City of Glendale and Camden Use Inc. in the connection with the Glendale Triangle Project to be located at 3900 San Fernando Road, also offered on October 25th, 2011 by Councilmember Weaver.
Move 7B.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Manukian,
I will be voting against it. As I expressed my concerns last week, I believe we are building very dense projects in the downtown area, and even though I do believe that there needs to be movement towards additional development in the downtown rather than in the hillsides and the neighborhoods. However, I think that these projects are getting more and more dense, and I just don't like it. So I will be voting against it by voting no.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Manukian, no. Councilmember Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. Next item, please.
Under action items, at 8A is Director of Community Development and General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding Greener Glendale Plan for Municipal Operations. At 8A1 is motion adopting the Greener Glendale Plan. 8A2 is a resolution authorizing participation in the Institute for Local Government's Beacon Award, Local Leadership Towards Solving Climate Change. And at 8A3 is a resolution adopting a certain negative declaration pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you. Mr. Hagani.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, this is a joint project between the Glendale Water and Power and Community Development Department. Laura Stadler and Cassandra Pruitt will be giving you your staff report.
Mayor Friedman, council members, staff. Last year we were here in November 2010 and you adopted a resolution to pursue compliance with the UN Urban Environmental Accords. What that is essentially sustainability policies. And as part of the direction that you gave us at that time was to go ahead and create a sustainability policy document for Glendale. What we have before you today is the Greener Glendale Plan for Municipal Operations. That's the first half of a sustainability plan for Glendale, and it's based on the UN Urban Environmental Accords. And now I'd like to introduce Cassandra Pruitt. She's our planning assistant, and she's also an expert in sustainability policy, and she's been preparing our document for us.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and council members. My name is Cassandra Pruitt. I'm a planning assistant in the Community Development Department. I have a PowerPoint. So the Community Development Department has been working closely with Glendale Water and Power to develop the Greener Glendale Plan, but we have also been working very closely with every other department in the city. The Greener Glendale Plan is funded through a grant that Glendale Water and Power received, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, and part of that grant money was set aside to develop an energy efficiency and conservation plan called the Greener Glendale Plan. The Community Development Department is making sure that the city meets state-mandated requirements to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So the Community Development Department and Glendale Water and Power have partnered to create a joint document that addresses both energy efficiency and conservation and greenhouse gas emissions. So the first thing we did is we checked in with City Council to get direction. And City Council adopted the United Nations Urban Environmental Accords as a framework for our long-term sustainability efforts. The word sustainability is used to mean that we're addressing the environment, society, and the economy in a way that ensures we can sustain ourselves into the future. So the UN Accords looks at sustainability through 7 topic areas: energy, water, waste, transportation, urban design, urban nature, and environmental health. And these were adopted on November 9, 2010. On that same day, City Council also adopted a resolution to address sustainability and climate change. So first we assessed our sustainability status and our existing programs, and we made that information available through a brochure. We made this available online and in printed form. It's available on the website at greenerglendale.org, and we also distributed it at community events and meetings, and we made it available at literature stations throughout the city and at different city-operated community facilities. So we're completing the Greener Glendale Plan in two separate documents, one that addresses municipal or internal operations and one that addresses community activities. And today we're presenting this first document. A standalone document for municipal operations is important because it allows us to inspect those activities over which we have direct operational control and to analyze our activities and make policy decisions about them. But if we lumped those activities under the larger community plan, we wouldn't be able to do that. It's also important that we call out the existing sustainability achievements the city has made, especially because AB 32, the California Global Warming Solutions Act, requires us to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to below 1990 levels, and the city has been implementing sustainability programs since before the 1990s. These are just some of the sustainability accomplishments. For example, the city has been building its clean energy portfolio since the 1930s. It began energy and water efficiency upgrades in its facilities in the 90s and has continued these efforts since. It began introducing cleaner fuels to the fleet in the 70s and encouraging alternative transportation in the 90s. And the city is currently developing a green fleet policy. To date, 9% of the fleet is green, plus the CNG bus fleet. The city installed the landfill gas collection system in the 80s and began using that gas for energy production in the 90s. The city's consistently increased its recycling rate and currently has a zero waste plan in the works. It's also been
Currently
working...
has a zero what?
Zero waste plan.
And that means, was zero waste plan or plant?
Get to zero.
Plan, okay.
Plan, zero waste.
How can we increase the waste recycling rate from 61 to higher? Is that possible, or is it?
The zero waste plan.
I don't want you reading stuff, and I want you more to kind of.
The zero waste plan lays out how to get to a 90% recycling rate.
Possible, you think, to get to 90%?
Mm-hmm.
Realistically?
It lays out exactly how it would happen, what equipment we would need, what programs we would use, how it would get funded.
We're above 61% now, aren't we?
No, we're right, Madam Mayor, members of the council, we're right about 61%, but recent state law that was signed by the governor requires us to have a mandatory 75% by 2020. And as the young lady said, we have a zero waste plan, which you will see on December 6th, which will lay out exactly what the guidelines are that we propose for that. Yes, it is possible. Well, that combined with some level of waste conversion technology will.
Can we get to 75% by 2012?
By 2020 is when.
No, I know, but can we get it by 2012?
Pretty confident we can get there. Maybe 2013, 2012, 2013 that we could get there.
What do we have to do to get there, in your opinion?
Well, one of the things is mandatory.
How can you mandate people?
It's a state law now, Mr. Manukian.
No, I know. Let's say I use a water bottle at home and I throw it in my regular trash receptacle. How can you mandate me taking that out and putting it in the recycler?
Well, the first thing we're going to do is put together an enforcement program per the state and make it both our responsibility and the responsibility of any private hauler working.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but these questions come to mind, and I'd be interested to know.
There's actually.
Are we going to go through people's trash and say, you?
Those that will either have an inspection program, or those that are servicing the containers will make note of that. And there is actually a fine structure for individuals who violate that law. But we need to bring that all to council and talk about it, put our specific ordinance together, and so forth.
What comes to mind when we talk about conservation is the water conservation that we requested, the council requested from the community. The community responded. I think that this community is very responsive to conservation efforts, and I think our first step should be going out to the community and setting goals for the community and see how they respond, and helping and incentivizing the community to come out and help. I think in that manner we can achieve it sooner rather than enforcement actions and going
Mr. Mnookin, that has been our program for
citations
the
and all
last
that.
20 years, and it will continue to be our first choice in dealing with these things. It's just when it comes down to now being a state-mandated law, we would have preferred not to have the state-mandated law, but and we have a pretty aggressive and pretty successful multifamily and commercial recycling program.
Well, absolutely.
We can do
the
better.
numbers reflect it.
We can always do better. So our first efforts will all be at putting forward to the public the benefits of the program and getting their participation on a voluntary basis, so we don't have to
Publicizing it more, maybe?
bring the ham. Absolutely. I think there's a number of things that we could do, including workshops, getting out and meeting directly with building owners and commercial recycling. There's a built-in incentive to this. The more you recycle, the less you throw away, the cheaper your trash bill is going to be. So for a commercial business or a large multifamily building, there's a built-in
That
incentive.
didn't work for the water rates.
Well, I'm not sure if they'll correlate, but we certainly think when it comes to waste reduction that we can be successful in that regard. But we certainly think we can get to 75%, and rather, certainly before 2020 when the mandate requires us to.
Okay, please continue.
Just one last point on this slide. The city's been working to preserve and enhance urban nature since the 1980s.
The city's been working to preserve what?
I'm sorry, I'll speak slower.
Thank you.
It's been working to preserve and enhance urban nature since the 1980s.
Urban nature?
Like trees,
Okay.
protecting open space, preserving and protecting habitat.
Are there habitats in Glendale, in the city areas that we need to,
Sure.
protect?
Coyotes. All about it.
Well, they're not habitats, but they're...
Even people's gardens can be habitat for wildlife, birds, raccoons.
And can the city mandate protecting individuals' properties? Think?
I don't know.
The answer to that question is there is a piece of that every project that comes before the city's review decision-making authorities will be subject to environmental review, and one of the aspects that we visit under every environmental review is if there is a sensitive habitat in the area for which a development is proposed, and if identified, then there are mitigation measures or alternatives. For the most part, in the built-out environment, that is not the case, but in some of the less built-out places, closer to the open spaces, from time to time, that's an issue we have to address.
Because I know there are deer that pass through my backyard, and if I block off the backyard, they can't pass through anymore. Does that make my backyard a protected, what'd you call it, urban nature? Would that qualify
the habitat
as...
environment is from time to time there are species of plants or animals that have been identified as being particular to an area, and if there is any danger of impacting that habitat, then we have to address it. Otherwise, if it's a common deer, that's not a sensitive habitat for deer or something similar to that, then we will not necessarily...
What if they were coyotes? Would that be...
I'm assuming is that a serious question?
Yeah, I'm just curious. How would you define it?
Well, for coyotes, the only thing that we have had to deal with in the past is that if you're...
Would that be like a corridor habitat, wildlife corridor?
But if it is an important portal to the wildlife habitat, and if it's introduced as such, then we have to address it. But as it stands, none of the areas have been identified as an important portal to coyote wildlife in the area.
Okay.
I mean, just by way of an example, not to belabor this, we delayed constructing the Chevy Chase reservoir due to the nesting habits of some of the indigenous birds.
Oh, okay.
Which is in your neighborhood. So we're right.
So after we sort of conducted an inventory of our existing sustainability efforts, we then conducted an energy and water consumption inventory and a greenhouse gas emission inventory that we would use as our baseline for our reduction targets.
As of when?
I'm sorry?
Baseline is there a year?
Yes. So we inventoried the years 2004 and 2009, and we actually found that during those years, the city reduced its energy and water consumption in its facilities. However, the city also increased public services in other areas such as the bus and vehicle fleet, and it opened the new police building. So all in all, the greenhouse gas emissions increased by 3%.
So the new police building increased the greenhouse emissions?
Well, any energy that's used results in greenhouse gas emissions unless it's a clean, renewable energy. So opening the new facility...
But shouldn't have the newer facility, as opposed to the older facility, have used more efficient energy as opposed to the old one, and maybe conserved energy as opposed to increasing it?
I'm sure that it did, but it's a much, much larger facility. So it was built to standards that made it much, much more energy efficient, but it was 100,000 square feet compared to the old facility. So, yeah, very large.
Right. So when you add any additional energy consumption, it will result in additional greenhouse gases, even if it's extremely efficient. So as you can see, if no further action is taken, the emissions will continue to increase. So the document proposes greenhouse gas reduction targets of 8% by 2020 and 13% by 2035. These are conservative targets. However, they're in line with our regional agency, the Southern California Association of Governments. These are the targets they're using.
So that plan that you're going to present is going to tell us how to get there?
Yep.
So we don't have that plan yet?
This is the plan that's being presented to you tonight. It lists...
What was that plan you said? You're going to present it later? Okay.
All right, that's just a component of what she's presenting to you.
Okay, so you're going to tell us how we're going to meet our targets next?
Right. So the targets are conservative but feasible. Now, if you look at the graph on the right, you'll see that through our existing either programs that we've completed since we conducted the inventory, or programs that are in progress, or that are planned and budgeted for, we can meet 93% of our 2020 target. The remainder of the 2020 target would be met with additional programs that we've identified that would primarily require staff time and insignificant additional funding. The remaining reductions for 2035 would need to be met through additional unfunded programs. Or if City Council chose to adopt a more stringent reduction target, that would also require additional unfunded programs.
Additional unfunded programs? That means we will have to have programs with no funding for them?
We would have to commit to programs that aren't currently funded and then find out how to fund them.
That means you'd have to find a way to fund them if you're going to implement them.
Right. So basically a primary thing we did when we organized the document, because we were thinking about the budget, is we figured out how can we make our target, or what's a target that we could make without significant additional funding required. So it's sort of a priority, but if we want to go above and beyond that, we can totally do that. So the document shows how addressing municipal operations in those 7 categories that I mentioned earlier, how implementing measures in those categories will result in greenhouse gas emission reductions. These are just a few of some of the things that the city has either completed, has in progress, or is planned in the near future.
Smart grid applications? What, basically the smart grid itself? Doesn't that generate more electricity, since it all uses electricity as opposed to the older?
There's various ways that we can use the smart grid technology, and it actually increases efficiency within operations. It can reduce staff time needed to go out and, for example, inspect a meter. That's just one example, but it can reduce a lot of time and energy spent. So the second document...
You go back to the
Sure.
Just trying to read it, since I don't have either a printout or a copy of the presentation.
It's in your packet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since my iPad is very slow today. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But was that up there long enough? I want to be sure that you got through it all.
Just barely.
Would you like me to go back?
No, it's okay.
Okay. So the second document that addresses community activities is in the works. We've completed the greenhouse gas inventory and the energy and water consumption inventories. We conducted a variety of community outreach to ensure that the plan includes ideas and reflects the priorities of the community. We conducted a community workshop. We worked with an email interest list of 100 people. We attended a variety of community events and meetings. And we've been working with businesses, schools, and hospitals to include their conservation efforts within the plan.
The community events and meetings, how many people attended and how many did you have?
Well, for community events and meetings, we attended.
Oh, okay. What about so you didn't invite the community to meetings?
No,
You
for the workshop, we invited them in-house.
people showed up
We had about 50 people at that event.
at the workshop?
Yeah, which
So
is...
there was one workshop?
Right. And that's that
How
photo
many
there.
events did you attend?
At least 10.
You have a listing of the events you attended?
I'm sorry?
You have a listing of the events you attended?
I don't have it with me.
Okay, just send it to me.
Sure.
Thank you. To the council as well.
Okay.
You can email it so we can save energy with paper and all of that.
Great, thanks. So a key finding of this community outreach process was that the city has a variety of information and resources available to the community, and the community likes these and would like to see them expanded, particularly education and outreach programs that sort of foster a sustainability mentality in the community. Things such as a website, community demonstration sites, awards, etc. This document is scheduled to go through public review in December of 2011, to be presented to GWP and Planning Commission in January 2012, and City Council in February of 2012. Actually, I do want to say something else. We took the plan to Planning Commission and this plan that we're presenting today, we took it to Planning Commission and GWP Commission. GWP Commission requested some additional information regarding cost and budget for the different programs that were listed in the plan. Even though this is a policy level guidance document, they wanted that information to be available in case you needed it. So that was provided and included as Appendix K. We then brought it back to GWP Commission and they recommended it for adoption unanimously. We took it to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission suggested some additional programs to add on to the plan, and they also unanimously recommended it for adoption. And then...
You're taking it back to them in December?
No, the second document for community operations will be presented to them before we bring it to you. And then the staff report also includes a resolution to participate in the Beacon Award program, which would allow the city to get recognition for its existing and ongoing programs that are reducing greenhouse gas emissions. There's a lot of cities that have signed up for this award program, and it will allow the city to promote what it's doing and get national recognition. So if you have any other questions or recommendations.
If I may, just stress something that Cassandra already explained, but just to be clear, what's before you is the first document for municipal operations. That has already been to both commissions and has been recommended by both commissions for adoption. The second portion, which is the portion addressing the community outside the municipal operations, which will be a series of policies and targets outside the municipal operations, has not been to the two commissions and is not before you tonight. And that is the piece that Cassandra was explaining. So tonight is only the list of recommendations for what the city can control within its own operation. The follow-up will be, which we will see in early next year, before you, after the two commissions see, will be the community. What will concern outside everybody else in Glendale.
Hassan, does 2020, is it only municipal operations, or does it also mandate reductions from your community?
The 2020 will also mandate reductions within the community, and that's the piece that we haven't completed yet.
Thank you. I do have cards, but let me see if there's any questions from the council before I go to the public.
Yes. So this is the overall policy document. It's not necessarily an action plan, because
this is the plan for municipal.
How you told me you wanted to reduce emissions. You didn't say how you're going to do it. You're going to turn off lights. I mean, is there an action plan that goes along with this policy document that you just presented?
Yes. So the document is organized by the 7 topics of sustainability.
Well, that's the document you're holding. That's the 151 pages I have here.
Right. Now, there is a lot of information in the appendices, but the document...
Okay,
The
continue.
document is organized by the 7 topics of sustainability. For example, one chapter is called Water, and within that chapter, it lists a variety of programs and projects that we could pursue to meet the reduction target. And it breaks them out by ones that we would pursue to meet our 2020 target and ones that we would pursue to meet our 2035 target. So there's very detailed things that we can do within the document.
I might add there's a fairly easy table that summarizes the various steps to achieve the different levels of sustainability and reduce it's in terms of thousands of metric tons of CO2 reduction. And it's the table on page 10 of 100 and 11 of 100 of the report, where it really runs through some broad categories of the kinds of things that you can effectuate, and as a result, the estimated number of metric tons of CO2 that you would likely reduce, and the targets for those, some of which would require funding to eventually get there. But it gives you a sense of how, as you reduce more and more, many things require a greater amount of effort to reduce even more. Some of the stuff's like the easy growing, the lower growing fruit that's easy to get to. Other stuff is harder and will take more time and more investment. But that table gives you a good sense of the kinds of things we'll be looking at. It's on 10 of the report.
And I could go over a few of them if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like.
Okay, so we started going over this earlier. This is kind of a highlight of a range of things that we're doing, and currently the city is pursuing 33% renewable energy portfolio. That is a state mandate to do that, but that will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. I already spoke about the smart grid applications. The city has an ongoing tree planting program. Both the Public Works Department and the Community Services and Parks Department plants trees, including indigenous trees. And this number is based on their existing rate of tree planting per year. The city already completed...
Over how many years is that? The 3,400 number.
It says to 2035 on the trees, for example.
The 3,400 trees is just by 2020.
Right.
And then there will
10
be...
years, approximately 9 years, or 8 years.
But I might point out, as the table notes, that can have a significant amount of carbon reduction by planting of trees, which is a fairly easy thing to do that also enhances the community.
Yeah, the 33% renewable energy portfolio is the number one. It reduces 3,256 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. That's the most effective program that we have on the list. The planting 3,400 trees is the second item. We can reduce 868 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. The HVAC upgrades have actually already been completed. They were completed after our inventory, so they count towards our reduction goals. And GWP paid for these upgrades to 23 major city facilities. The fleet department has an ongoing effort to retire underused older vehicles and replace them, actually just to retire them. If they're not being used, then that's a waste of energy.
Don't we replace vehicles every 5 years or so?
I was going to mention that there is a replacement program. There's a schedule, and they do become more efficient over time. GWP is working...
Madam Mayor, Councilmember,
it
depends on the type of vehicle. For instance, a piece of fire apparatus has a 20-year life, a refuse truck a 7-year life, generally speaking, so it ranges.
We have really old heavy equipment like backhoes and tractors and stuff.
Mr. Manukian, we have over time accumulated that, and what Cassandra's referring to in some of our elimination is focused primarily on that equipment first. So off-road type equipment, loaders, and even dump trucks are things that we're beginning to eliminate.
And we're going to be looking at concepts like the zip car in the downtown area that could also service our fleet. We have a lot of white cars that are parked in the garage every day that are just available for people to drive. There are probably some new ways to look at how you can eliminate your fleet and rely more on the programs like that operated by the zip car. Steve, how many vehicles have we eliminated in the past 3 years? pieces of rolling stock?
It's been of a fleet of about 1,200. We've done probably 200, close to 200.
Yeah, we've made a concerted effort to get vehicles out of the fleet, so we have a smaller fleet.
So Glendale Water and Power has been working to improve the energy efficiency of water pumps, which use a lot of energy. The fleet department is also downsizing vehicles. If a smaller vehicle can perform exactly the same job task, they use a smaller vehicle instead of, for example, a van.
Where is that determined?
I'm sorry?
Who determines whether a smaller job you do? Smaller
Mr.
vehicle?
Manukian, that's decided between the fleet manager and what we call the fleet board, which is the department heads for each of the operations that have mobile rolling stock fleet.
So it's not the individual who goes up to the car and says, oh, today I'll take the smaller car, tomorrow.
What we're trying to do, Mr. Manukian, is standardize. So, for instance, what I think Cassandra is referring to is where we traditionally bought a full-size pickup, we may be looking now at some sort of maybe a small SUV, maybe even an electric or alternative fuel vehicle that can take the place of that full-size pickup truck, but going down to a smaller model, whatever that may be, and that all the way down the line where we can get away with using a smaller piece of equipment. So we're doing that. That's really the downsizing aspect of it. There's the reduction of the fleet, overall size of the fleet, and then the downsizing of the individual fleet to a smaller, more efficient type of piece of equipment.
The brand library remodel has been an ongoing effort. I think it's been 10 years plus that they've been doing a variety of upgrades to, and these include energy efficiency upgrades, including HVAC, lighting, etc. And the Parks Department implemented a variety of water-saving efforts. The plan lists, there's probably 20 different things they did, really significant to save water. Other departments have also done things to save water, but the Parks Department, I wanted to highlight that. That's just a sample of some of them.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I go to the public? Okay, thank you. Don't go away. We may have more questions after. Okay, I have two cards. Mona Montgomery, followed by Alec Bartrouf.
3 cards.
Sorry?
3 cards.
Oh, I think I have another card coming up. If you can get them in before we actually go to the speakers, that would be great, Mr. Mulhill.
Hi, I'm Mona Montgomery, and I'm here to speak against this vast implementation of an overwhelming bureaucracy that's going to cost everything we have and control every facet of our life, because it fails to address the real problem of a sustainable planet, which is overpopulation. In 151 pages of drafts, there is not one word about birth control. If we don't control the birth rate, we're going to continue to adapt and adapt and adapt. This is the most massive demonstration of man's ability to adapt to impending doom that I've seen. And it won't work if we don't lower the birth rate. Obviously, the world leaders are kind of shy about talking about that, which is why they're leaving it out of their plan. Obviously, the people at Washington, D.C. don't want to address that, which is why we have open borders and why our president has closed down all of our birth control clinics worldwide under pressure from the religious people. If you don't have a plan that addresses birth control, you do not have a plan. You have a fraudulent scheme to tax the people and micromanage their lives that it goes beyond the wildest dreams of the Kremlin. The lady last week was talking about these smart meters that not only take signals from us, they also send signals to us. And she wasn't talking out of her hat when she said, there's a great possibility of an invasion of privacy that Americans are not used to contemplating, nor should we be. We drafted the Bill of Rights. We believe in warding off government intrusion. This is the mayor just came back from Washington, D.C., where she was told that America's cities are going to pay $190 billion to improve the water system. Not one word about what about the fact that if we don't implement birth control policies, at least education, preferably clinics, 7 billion people are going to turn into 14 billion people in 30 years. Now, I just think it's time to tell these little communist mechanics what they're trying to tell them down there at the City Hall. We've had enough. You've got to start using your intelligence. And everybody knows we're overpopulated and we can't continue to adapt to this obvious impending doom.
Thank you. Mr. Mohill, please. Alec Bartruff, followed by Mike Mohill.
Hi, my name is Alec Bartruff. I'm a lifelong resident of Glendale. I first off want to say that I'm thrilled that the city of Glendale is not in the business of birth control. But I do want to say that I strongly support this Green Glendale plan for municipal operations. I've worked with Cassandra for many months on this. I know that it's a very extensive document. I luckily had the chance to look over it this weekend. And I did have some questions. I was going to bring them up, but she already addressed them earlier today. So I hope that we have your support for this to move forward. It's a great step for the city of Glendale and a great step for the rest of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mike Mohill's my last card.
Thank you, Mayor Friedman, for allowing me to speak. Didn't plan. Wasn't going to talk about this subject matter, but man, let me tell you, when the speakers began to speak before me, I said, holy smokes, it's Big Brothers. A woman before me talked about government planning at the international level. And she said it right. Where's birth control? We just approved in this council several large projects in downtown Glendale that's going to increase our population by several thousand. That's called population increase. Why do we need it? The people here already are squeezed to death on our existing streets. Glendale Avenue, Central, Brand, Colorado, it's bumper-to-bumper traffic. Why don't we move the traffic to either Burbank or Pasadena? Why do we have to continue to have the third largest city in the county? The other comment that was made I found was very interesting was the lady who gave the presentation said, we're going to plant 3,400 trees. Wow. During the drought season or the non-drought season? We don't have enough water. You keep telling us, you keep raising our water rates. Then you tell us don't water, conserve water. I love my trees. I love trees. But we're being two-faced. One time you're saying do it this way, next time you're saying this way. And then we have the situation of overpopulation in Glendale. Ask any of the long-time residents of Glendale, and you ask them, do we have too many people in this city? And they're going to tell you, yes. Because Glendale used to be a sleepy town. I remember 60 years ago when my parents built their house up in the Verdugo Woodlands, and we had deer and antelopes in that area, and they're all gone now. You know where Fern Lane is? With the sports complex? I used to play in that area. And there were not that many people in Glendale. Now the population has probably tripled in those days back in the 50s. Mr. Weaver remembers those days. I'm sure he does. And now we have the third largest city in the county. Are we proud of it? Tell me, are we proud of the fact that we have the third largest population? Why don't we shoot for Long Beach? They have the better record, or even Los Angeles. Sustainability. These pictures were great about Big Brother interfering with us and our lifestyle. We don't need a bigger government. We don't need United Nations in Glendale. I think we're going the wrong direction. Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill.
Thank you. That's my last card. Mr. Najarian.
a general comment in terms of sustainability. I thought I knew what sustainability was. And then I read and I thought it was limited to issues such as energy and land use. But it's really quite a broad definition. And I did not know that. But it talks about societal equity, social equity. This is like, what are we talking about here? Is this, wealth redistribution sort of stuff? I'm surprised that the definition is that broad, because I will be more careful next time I discuss sustainability in the general sense. I will talk about energy sustainability or transportation sustainability. It's right here. It's, cited to the ICLEI. And I think that's a little scary. When you start talking about social equity, that's a large, very broad subject. Income equity. I just want to throw that out there. I know it's very far removed from our municipal operations plan to reduce greenhouse gases, but personally, when I use that term and when I hear it, I'm now aware that there's a larger issue behind there besides just saving energy and preventing our waste from being put into the non-recyclable waste stream.
Madam Mayor, may I? Mr. Najarian is correct that in the broader sense, sustainability is used to cover many different topics, but at the local level, each jurisdiction will take it only as far as that jurisdiction sees fit. I hope you noticed that within the plan that we're presenting to you, we are not addressing things like social equity and any kind of pink or the shade of red versions of policy. We are only focusing on what's within our interests and reflects the population's interests.
Anybody else? Comment?
No, other than to thank staff. That took a lot of work to put this together, and I guess we're kind of at the forefront. A lot of communities in doing this, they'll all, I guess, have to do it at some point in time. We just have to be ahead of the pack. So that's great. Thanks for all your work. Now you can do the other one.
I want to make a few comments. First, I attended that workshop that they had the picture of. And it seemed like more than 15 people to me. You said 15? 50? Okay, 50 makes more sense, because there were a lot of people there in a small room coming and going, and people were very enthusiastic. And there were a lot of people I had never seen before who came out because they were so interested in the topic and they were very engaged. And that's great. I love seeing that kind of community involvement. I think it's really important that we have a plan to address sustainability. First, because it's the right thing to do, but secondly, because we're mandated to. And that's something we need to keep in mind. 2020 is not something we could ignore. It's a piece of legislation passed by the State Assembly that forces us into mandatory conservation. And if we don't do that, and mandatory sustainability policies, and if we don't have a real reduction across the board of all of our resources, we get hit with very heavy fines. So people need to keep that in mind. I think this is the right thing to do. I would vote for it anyway, but we don't really have much choice. We have to have a plan like this. Otherwise, we're going to be really in a lot of trouble financially. And when we talk about unfunded mandates, like I was talking about earlier in regards to the federal government and the EPA, this is the state's version. It's telling the cities, we demand that you do this, and if you don't do it, you'll be paying huge penalties, but we're not going to help you financially with any of that. We're not going to give you money for your infrastructure. We're not going to give you money for these programs. And the truth of it is that dirty energy is still a lot cheaper than clean energy. As the technology gets better, that's going to change over time. But right now, you pay more for your power. And Mr. Steiger, shake your head if I'm wrong, but you pay a lot more for your solar power and other types of power than you do for power from coal. So what you're seeing in terms of rates, once again, as the city tries to achieve its 2020 mandated goals, you have seen electricity rates go up, and a lot of that is as a result of that. So yes, it's the right thing to do for the environment, but there is a price tag, and people, need to be aware of that. I get emails from time to time, people saying, "We don't want any coal anymore. We just want solar. We just want wind." And that's great, but they also need to remember that that's a lot more expensive. And are you willing to pay for that? Are you willing to pay for what you want? The birth control, I agree that overpopulation worldwide is a huge problem. I don't really know what we can do on the local level about it. There are cities that have blocked Planned Parenthood and other family planning. I'm happy we're not one of those cities. I think that's the important thing for cities, is to make sure that to whatever extent they want to be in a community, they are. A lot of communities now across the country don't have access to family planning. And we do, and that's really all that we can do. But the population, I think, hit, what was it, 7 trillion?
No,
7
billion.
billion.
Don't
Thank
push
you.
his
I've been
head.
traveling a lot, so I'm a little tired. 7 trillion last week.
Billion.
Billion. 7 billion last week. Thank you.
Be no place of a trillion.
The last billion was within the last 12 years, is that?
Yeah. So, that is going to be a problem. And, whether we don't build any more apartment units here, we're still going to feel the impacts of that in terms of resources and everything else. But I think this is a great beginning. I commend staff for their tremendous amount of work and for their community outreach. I think the community who is involved and people who came out today to speak, I appreciate the comments. And, we'll be seeing more documents like this as we go forward. Is it Big Brother? I don't know. We have to see kind of how it plays out. This document was about what the city itself does, not about what the community is going to do. This is about how we, as the city of Glendale, can make ourselves as efficient as possible. I can't see anybody arguing against that. I look forward to the day when you can throw all your trash in one bin and everything gets recycled or somehow reused. I think that will happen. We're not quite there yet. But I think that this is a good document, a good step forward. I look forward to seeing the subsequent documents and plans.
I need a motion.
Yes, please.
I'll move 8A, 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Council members Manukian, Najarian.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. Next item, please.
One person. That's support. 2.
They're applauding at home.
8.
Yes, it was loud, I have to admit.
8D is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding a public auction of city-owned property known as 3445 Altura Avenue, APN 5606015901. B1 is a resolution authorizing public auction.
Mayor Friedman, members of the Glendale City Council. On July 19th, 2011, City Council authorized through resolution the disposition of GWP-owned property at 3445 Altura Avenue. On August 17th, we conducted an inspection of the property for anyone that was interested in bidding on the property. No one showed up. We expected bids in-house on September 6th. We received none. So we canceled our council item for that same evening to accept the bid since we didn't have any. We are coming back to you tonight to amend that resolution to recognize a lower price floor for that property. And we're recommending a floor price of $300,000 and then a bid process to move ahead with that. So with your permission, we would like to move ahead.
Mr. Manukian.
We paid for an appraisal of this property.
Yeah, the original appraisal was $600,000.
Did we pay for that appraisal?
We paid for that appraisal, correct.
Can we get our money back?
They're not fortune tellers.
It's an art, not a science.
Well,
obviously, it wasn't reflective of the market because we didn't get bids. The other aspect of this is, though, that there's also a process involved with it. It's large enough; it could be 2 lots. We think there was some fear of people having to go through the whole entitlement process after they purchased it for that kind of price. So,
do we need to sell this property?
Well, you should. There's no reason to hold on to it. It becomes a cost. And I think that we had some conversation with the neighborhood about its eventual use, and they've been concerned about it. This is really the best use for it from a neighborhood standpoint, is to get it developed so it fits better within that part of the community.
Come on, folks, $300,000. That's a bargain.
And if
miss this
Mr.
opportunity.
Kosaki can do his magic again, we'll get more than 3 if we can just get some bidders.
That's right. Is it true you've been practicing that auctioneer lingo? I don't know what the word is.
I've been
for
thinking
that.
about buying a hat. Large auctioneer.
So do you want a motion on this?
Yes, please.
I'll move 8B1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Caro, Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Abstained. He abstained.
Next item on the agenda under oral communications. This is a 5-minute portion. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. City Manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Okay, thank you. Tony Passarella to be followed by Mike Mohill.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman, council members, staff, and viewing public. I first want to commend you, Mayor, and council members on the appointment of Mr. Ochoa. That was quite a surprise to many of us. So I do commend you for appointing Mr. Ochoa. I also want to talk about Mr. Manukian for a second. I want to applaud Mr. Manukian for coming on a regular basis to the Vanguardians meetings when all of you are invited almost on a weekly basis by Mr. Barry Allen. Mr. Manukian shows up almost weekly and now has come forward to host this week's meeting in Barry's absence. That speaks very loud and clear to me. And again, we're inviting Mayor Friedman and council members this week as Mr. Manukian hosts. Also, I want to applaud Mr. Manukian in regards to his, I know, you love it, right? In regards to his public admission as opposing smart meters. I have not heard that from anyone else here. The fact that he, on record, states he opposes smart meters and also makes comments with compassion to the speakers such as myself that have issues, health issues regarding smart meters. So thank you for that, Mr. Manukian. First slide, please. I want to invite you, Mayor Friedman, council members, and the viewing public to our Learn the Truth About Smart Meters public forum to be held Thursday, November 10th at 7 p.m. at the Moose Lodge, 357 West Arden Avenue in Glendale. The phone number for more information is 641-5042. Next slide, please. Our first guest speaker is Cindy Sage. Cindy is the owner of Sage Associates in Montecito, California, a nationally known environmental land use consulting firm. Ms. Sage is an internationally known expert in the study of health effects of electromagnetic fields. She has conducted field studies that prove that the radio frequency radiation of smart meters is in some cases above the legal limits stated by the FCC. Ms. Sage is a co-author of the Bioinitiative Report and founder of the Bioinitiative Working Group. Next slide, please. Our second speaker is Orlean Cole. Orlean has been serving as the state president of the Eagle Forum since 2002. Eagle Forum is a pro-family, pro-life conservative organization started by Phyllis Schlafly in the 70s when she was fighting the Equal Rights Amendment. Orlean is a published author of many articles and 5 books, with the latest being Just Say No to Big Brother Smart Meter. Next slide, please. Oh, that's the last slide. Our next speaker we added last week is Mindy Spat. Mindy joined TURN as a media advocacy director in 1998. She is now TURN's communications director, coordinating TURN's media and online advocacy. She has been featured in scores of newspapers, television, and radio stories about smart meters and TURN's objections to them. TURN is the Utility Reform Network. Late breaking news, just a few hours ago, we landed a forum MC, and many of you, I'm sure, know his name. His name is Ron Kay, retired editor of the LA Daily News. Ron has become a community activist, helping to found the Saving LA Project and the LA Clean Sweep Political Action Committee. He writes on city issues in LA and is a frequent speaker at community groups. He is a graduate of the University of Chicago. I just want to add that this is a nonpartisan event. Republicans, Democrats, Independents are all invited. If you're a liberal or if you're conservative, it doesn't matter. All religious affiliations, if you're a Jew, if you're a Catholic, if you're Protestant, if you're Christian, you're invited. If you're red, yellow, black, and white, you're invited. If you're Mexican, German, Italian, Armenian, you're invited to this event. I hope you all come. It's going to be an amazing time to get some really good information in regards to smart meters. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike Mohill, to be followed by Alec Bartrusov.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman, council members, and the viewing public. My speech this evening has been changed. I was talking with 4 young adults in the outer lobby who work with part of Mr. Kasazian, already in the city clerk's office, and they're asking me about the process of the Civil Service Commission and what happened to Mr. Shaheh Karolian. And I told them it was all about politics. And they said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Well, let's talk about the 4 councilmen who all voted, well, 3 who voted against him." Mr. Nigerian said the man needs a second chance, and he was going to support him. But I found it very interesting that Mr. Weaver, in 2009, was fined $9,000 from the Fair Political Practice Commission for money laundering. And he's sitting here acting as a judge on a potential commissioner who was never fined $9,000. Okay, that's called politics. He doesn't like the man. Bottom line. Councilman Quintero, I remember him saying, weeks ago, saying to me and the public, whoever wants, any of the council people wants somebody on the commission, I don't care who it is, I may not agree with them, but I will support the other councilmen on their selection. And tonight he voted against Mr. Shaheh Karolian. Another thing about Mr. Quintero, Mr. Honest Quintero, he received over $25,000 from ADI. That's the Advanced Development and Investment Company, who's under federal investigation for giving the politicians thousands of dollars, and then they in turn vote for public housing projects. But he was being a good, honest man tonight. Mayor, you're also guilty, as the judge and jury here. You also took $16,000 from ADI. Well, how much was it, ma'am?
Do you want me to answer during your
I'm told
time?
$16,000.
None of us received money from ADI.
You're right.
Let's be accurate.
You're right. Their
These
family
local-
and friends gave you
Local
campaign
businesses-
contributions, ma'am.
Local businesses in the community who happen to work with them as well as other companies. So let's just be accurate.
I am being accurate, ma'am. Council members are being under federal investigation. Read that in the LA Times. And if I'm wrong, you tell me about the federal investigation for people who took money up and down the state from the friends. It's called third party. Gave council members money. You know, the plumber, the carpenter, the merchant, you name it. So here you are. You won't give a man who's tried to turn his life around, I never knew Mr. Shahe until recently when he was running for council and was running for the 43rd Assembly District. He showed me nothing about his character that was wrong today, that was any different than the 5 councilmen in front of me who come here every Tuesday night and pontificate what the public should say and do. Now, what should the public think about this process when we have council members who they themselves should be looking in the mirror when they judge and jury people who want to be on a commission? Mr. Weaver, you were fined again in 2009, $9,000 for campaign violations. Mr. Quintero, you told the public that whoever, any councilman wanted to be on a commission, you would go along with it. And tonight, you changed your mind. Why? Did he do something that you didn't like? You know, when he was running for office with me, by myself, in 2011 here, he was always straightforward. He was never rude. He was never attacking. I was the attack dog, if you all remember. Let's be honest. Let's restore this public trust. Somehow I think we keep going adrift. Every time I come here to City Council, I say, where are my councilmen going tonight? Will I be proud of them, of their decision making? Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill.
Thank you. Alec Bartrosu, followed by Sharon Weissman.
Hello, my name is Alec Bartrosov. Today I'm here to express my frustration with the lack of time that we have to go over all of these documents between Friday and Tuesday. I'm here today to put in a request to somehow get these documents in before the Friday prior to council meetings. I was fortunate enough to go over the Greenwood Glendale plan in its entirety this weekend, but when it comes to a point when I need to look at more than one document, I'm not going to be able to do that between Friday and Tuesday. And I have no idea how you council members look at this entire binder over the weekend. If you have any tricks, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Time management.
What were you holding up again?
Madam Mayor and Council, that is the...
I'm kidding.
Okay, because that is the public's copy that's available at our counter. I allowed Mr. Bartusov to use it as a prop to make his point this evening.
Okay, Sharon Weissman, and then my last card will be Margaret Hammond.
Thank you, Mayor Friedman, council, staff. I'm Sharon Weissman from Far North Glendale, and I didn't intend to speak tonight, but I'm also the local chapter president of Population Connection. We're mostly active in Pasadena. It's the only local chapter active in Los Angeles County, and you can contact me if you want to help spread the word about voluntary family planning around the world. I too think the planet cannot sustain 7 billion humans, and I fear for the quality of life for many people in the world. One possible thing that the council might have power to do is in regards with a facility here that actually, since I didn't plan to speak tonight, I haven't checked, but at last that I'm aware of, there's an organization called Avenues Pregnancy Clinic in Glendale on Glen Oaks, and what they really offer are anti-abortion counseling. They kind of bring young women in with signs that say troubled pregnancy, come in, and then they're kind of browbeaten into certain reactions to their pregnancy, and I think perhaps something in terms of truth in advertising kind of ordinance. While these facilities are, of course, by right, anybody can have that, and you can call yourself a transmission clinic too and have nothing to do with medical services, and this organization does not provide any medical services. So you might let people know that there is something you can do to help family planning worldwide and specifically here in Glendale. And as far as I know, our current president is funding the UN Population Fund. It was the former President Bush who stopped the funding during his 8 years in office. And in closing, thank you for your time, and thank you very much, all of you who are elected, who serve the public in the face of what some of us think are irrational and certainly repetitive comments over time, and many of us really do. While we don't agree with everything that you always vote for, we really appreciate you doing this extraordinary, difficult job with very little thanks and a great deal of unnecessary commentary here. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Margaret Hammond is my last card.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff, and the audience. My name is Margaret Hammond, and I hate the negativity. It's very sad. You guys all have families and have a right to be proud to serve, and it's a shame that they have this going on and on. You got to give up. He's talking about giving the guys another chance, and yet he goes on and on for hours on end. And I think one of our things that we do that's great is the free bulky item pickup. We are helping our city to cooperate with whatever, and the number being 818-548-3916. And when you go to other cities like LA or Eagle Rock and you see the junk everywhere, you can well appreciate what we have. As for the urban habitat, I have to say, I have a young couple I rented to from New York. And the coyotes up on Adams Hill, you know, they howl up there on Forest Lawn. And it doesn't bother me. I think it's great myself, living out in the country when I live in the middle of a city. And I said something to them, you know, whatever. I think they had a cat or something. And she said, well, I'd much rather have the coyotes than the rats that run around in New York City. So where they lived, I don't know where they lived. I went like, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, that's why we have coyotes and cats, right? So that's one person's, thought. Now, one of the things that I want to bring up is Viva Vaqueros. We're having it this Friday up at the Castaways. Again, it's put on by the Patrons Club of Glendale College. All the money that we take in goes for scholarships directly. And we appreciate all you people that support us. The live auction this time, first time, and again, the seating, executive seating for the Angels, the Dodgers, the Kings, and the Rose Parade. You'll have parking included, and I think the Lakers would have been included, but didn't. I think somebody told me they weren't playing basketball. I don't know. I don't follow those things. So, and it's really wonderful, great lunch, and $45 is not a lot of money. And we have some wonderful. Again, Gertrude Ness is our lovely lady that's going to model. I saw her today, and she said, yes, she had new shoes, and she was trying them out to make sure she could walk in them. Judy, 818-243-3590. I think she said there were a few seats still available for the luncheon. Now, back to one of my beefs is the red light camera business. Why was that contract renewed? And especially when other cities proved that it wasn't working, that they did away with them, using the same contractor that we used. Now, I would like to know the figures. I mean, they feel it was an expensive and useless operation. They didn't make profit on it. So I would like to get the figures. I want to know where to get them. I keep asking. I think this is about the 10th time. How much does it cost per year? How much profit from the tickets issued for breaking the law of the red light, whatever, and where can I get that information? Never mind what we collected, I want to know what profit we made. So I was being a bookkeeper since I was 17 years old, so to me it's cost and income and profit is the bottom line. So I would like to get that definitely, those figures. I'm going to keep talking about it because I saw it again, that other cities do not feel that it was a good tool. It did not help the situation of the traffic violations and so forth. So I don't know what else you can do to educate the drivers, especially about pedestrians. I mean, I shudder when I come to pedestrians and I see the lights going. I slow down way back so that if anybody on each side of me, because I had him go, I had a motorbike cut around me, and the woman, I mean, if she hadn't been right in front of my car, he would have got her. So I don't know what we can do about it. It's really pretty sad. But anyway, we have a wonderful city, and no matter what anybody criticizes, I think you guys do a great job. I really do. And we can be proud of our police force. We have a wonderful police chief in Ron DePompa. So many of the officers are wonderful guys and gals to talk to. And our fire chief is a marvelous man. We're very fortunate to have the people we do. Thank you very much. And Mr. Zern and Hassan and Artie. And very good. Thank you.
What about the council?
I said I
I'm sorry. I knew you said that. I was just checking.
Hey, that's my last card. Mr. Weaver?
Oh, my. Mr. Mohill continues to show his stupidity, absolute stupidity. Something that happened to me over 7 years ago, coming up 8. If I was doing money laundering, I'd be in prison today. Wasn't that? I've said it many times to him, but it doesn't serve his purpose to check out the facts or tell the truth. He'd rather just come in and lay this crap out. Maybe someday he'll go to the library and get a book and learn what money laundering is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nigerian?
With regard to Mr. Bartrosuf's comments, we wish we could get it earlier also. And I describe this job often as having a final exam every Tuesday and cracking the book on Friday, because you really have to spend a lot of time and go through it. And not only that, but you take your exam in front of thousands of people who are, pulling for you to fail. So anyway, I'm not sure there's anything we can do, but if you have questions on that stuff, as members of the public, staff is available to explain or to go into any further detail.
Madam Mayor, for what it's worth, the North Glendale plan, I asked for us to get that at least 2 weeks ahead. That's another big one. Not going to be able to go over that over a weekend, so don't schedule it to council until we've had a couple of weeks at it. It's a pretty good sized one.
Dragani?
You will get the draft North Glendale plan hopefully by next Tuesday, which would be 3 weeks prior to your meeting.
There you go, see? Now there'll be no excuses. I don't know from cover to cover.
However, though, don't lose it before the meeting.
What about the water rate? We delayed it. When is that coming back? And when will we get the PowerPoint?
That's coming back on November 29th.
Can we get the PowerPoint? Because I didn't get it last time.
We'll make sure you get the PowerPoint ahead of time.
But you should have the PowerPoint because you had it last time. Didn't get emailed to me. Maybe Artie can, I'm sure he has it. You can email it to me.
Other comments? Okay. Mr. Weaver?
New business. I'd like to move that the matter entitled Azanaro versus City of Glendale, Superior Court Case Number BC 450568, be compromised and settled for the full and complete sum of $28,000, and the same is hereby approved and accepted, and the Director of Finance is authorized to issue a warrant in said sum for delivery by the City Attorney upon the execution by the plaintiff of release and dismissal with prejudice.
Oh, boy.
We got that out.
Thank you. Council members: Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman?
Yes. No, do we have any further new business?
To adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Wait.